All right. Well, welcome to everyone today. This is our first ever coffee chat. We've got Bondilyn Jolly with us today, and she's going to talk about a great topic called business essentials for creating opportunity in the midst of crisis, which all of us, I have moments during the day that we feel like that. Let me quickly just introduce Bondilyn. Oops, actually, before we do that, I wanted to just remind everybody about if you have any questions that you would like to ask. If you look over on the right-hand side of the bar, you'll see a little a blue bar that says questions, and then there's a triangle right next to it. If you click on that, open it up, ask a question whenever you'd like to during the session. If it makes sense, I'll stop our conversation and ask it right then. And if not, we'll ask it toward the end of the session. So hold on if you don't see it. So I'd like to introduce Bondilyn Jolly. For those of you who have not been lucky enough to meet her, she and I have been friends for many years now. But she has, just like I do, actually, that's kind of funny. I never thought about that till now. 2 different jobs. She's the vice president of marketing for Elm Street Technology and the amazing Elevate platform that some of you may be using today. And she's also the managing partner of 365 Agency, which is a digital marketing agency that's been helping realtors for many, many years with really trying to break through with their messaging and find the appropriate marketing mix that makes sense. I'm the president of EVERY Technology and also the managing partner of Wave Group, which is a consulting firm. So I guess that's why we're always so busy, right, Bondilyn? We have lots going on.
And this is a busy time as well. It never stops. No rest for the wicked.
Exactly. So, before we jump in, tell me, how are you feeling now? I know you're in California like I have. Tell me what it's been like to be in shelter in place for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, so I'm in Los Angeles, and so they actually recommended it's been almost 3 weeks. This weekend will be 3 weeks that my family, my husband, and my 2 teenage children, that we have all been in close proximity sheltering in place together. And
and
so those little memes, those memes where people start with their coffee and then it moves directly to wine in the afternoon, but we're doing surprisingly well. And of course the fact is, I'm very focused on finding the positive and everything. And that's what we're going to talk about today in the business aspect. But from a personal aspect, I was struggling to organize a sit down dinner with my family, one night a week between school rehearsals and acting classes and auditions. And, we were fighting to have dinner one night a week and quality time as a family. And so some of the things, the positive things that have come out of this is now I get to have 3 meals a day with my family. But, we've really had some time to really, reconnect and refocus and realign our values, as individuals, as a family, as professionals. And, I think we're doing all right. I'm an extrovert though, and I'm losing my mind a little bit, but thank God for video chat because my friends and I are just, it's my saving grace right now.
That's a good point. And, maybe, because I don't know where, we have an audience with us today, and thank you everybody for attending. Probably everybody's at a little bit different stage of how long they've been in shelter in place, or even if they yet are in shelter in place. And maybe, can you talk to us a little bit, and I'll do the same, about, how you felt when you first went into shelter in place versus kind of where you are today. I guess it's 2.5 weeks now. It feels like about 7 years to me. I feel like we're living in dog years right now. But
every day is really long.
Yeah. But what do you see differently though? I'm going to turn off this so we can just see each other. What are you seeing differently, like in your own mindset or in what you're focusing on or what your family's focusing on? How is it changing as we get further, deeper into this whole shelter in place concept?
Yeah, well, when everything first came down, like I said, I have 2 teenage children, and my teenage daughter she was a mess. She was an emotional mess. She had, friends that had families that were being directly impacted, several weeks ago in the LA area. And she was really scared. And so, while we're business professionals and we're dealing with what's happening in our business, and, we've got 100 staff members inside of Elm Street that we're trying to to mitigate everything that's going on with all of them and make sure the company is aligned and, and at the same time, try to go out and go shopping and stock up on food and toilet paper. For God's sakes, it took us 2 weeks to find toilet paper. And then deal with our children, right? And deal with my daughter's, her anxiety, her fears, her concerns, school being shut down. I mean, there's a lot of emotions. And I think every day, you have these highs and lows every single day. And I think every single one of us, everybody that's in the audience is feeling that same way, and it's just important to remember that we're in this together, and everybody's going through this, our local communities, our friends, our families, our global community. And it's amazing to see how people have come together and really work, to support and help each other, and I went through Katrina. We lived in New Orleans during Katrina, and we saw the same sort of impact where when these horrible things are happening and communities or people's families are being decimated, the fact that there's people that will always rise above, that will step up, that will come and serve their communities, both personally, professionally. And I'm seeing so much of that in the real estate space right now too, which excites me.
Yeah, actually, that's the key reason actually we started Coffee Chats, because that's how we felt a lot of the same thing, that number one, thank God this happened now and not 10 years ago, because video is so prevalent online now. It's not hard to see your friends, even though you're not literally physically seeing them. But we also felt like we know so many people like you that have great ideas about how to ride this out. And if you have a minute to breathe, to think about the kinds of things you can do to sort of work on your business instead of in your business. And so that's why we've started this too. So everybody's trying to, chip in whatever way that they can. I feel a lot of the same thing. I feel like though, when we first got into this, I had more moments of panic and unfocusedness, if that's a word. And as we're getting further down the road, it's becoming, I hate to say it, but it's becoming a little bit more normal. And I agree with you about spending time with your family. And my daughter's a senior in high school. And we just had to go through the whole who got into what college thing on top of everything else. But I know as a senior, I would not be seeing her at all. She'd be off at parties and with her friends and trying to, squeeze in every last minute with all of them. So I feel grateful. She probably doesn't, but I feel grateful as well that I've gotten some time to spend with her and my family. And we've kind of taken our house and divided it in thirds. So everybody's got a third of the house, and we kind of stay away from each other during the day. And then we come together at mealtime and at night. So it's kind of fun. So anyway, let's jump into our topic of, you've worked with Elm Street and with 365, lots of different agents and brokerages in good times and in bad. I'm sure you worked with lots of agents and brokers when you were in Katrina time as well. So give us some advice. What should we be thinking about to get ourselves in a good position for the short term and really position ourselves well for the long term?
Yeah. So, we don't know how long this is going to last. And, when you look at what's happening with, what economists are putting out there, and, the fact that even if we're back, in society within the next 60 to 90 days, economically, we're going to see residual effects of this, literally going into 2021. And if we have to extend this longer, it's going to affect us, impact us. The one thing that's very promising in the real estate industry is real estate must go on. I mean, I feel horrible for people that work in, textile garment industries, industries that are just like Bangladesh, overseas is just decimated, because of this. Real estate goes on, housing is one of the core fundamental needs that we have. People are still going to have children, they're going to marry, they're going to divorce. We have this activity, that's going to happen regardless. And I'm actively house shopping right now in the LA market, which is horrible, by the way. I hate house shopping in the LA market. And I think everybody out there can completely understand why. But, even though I'm literally I'm in a bid war. So we're, heading into this recession. We have this low inventory market, and we still, I'm in a bid war right now with somebody, and it's just so frustrating. But that being said, kind of looking at this sort of unknown and not really knowing where we're going, there are things that we do know, right? And with the tens of thousands of agents and brokers and companies that we work with, people are hunkering down. There's a lot of brokers and agents who are very much in this, I'm going to ride this out, I'm going to wait and see mentality. And, and I understand that mentality, but at the same time, I'm very action focused, right? So I'm like, okay, all those goals that you set at the beginning of 2020, just throw those out the window. They're not good anymore, right? So let's reevaluate and let's realistic reevaluate. And so we're doing a lot of work with that, going into our brokerages and saying, okay, let's reevaluate all of your systems and processes, all of your technology. And this is a time too where, if you're investing in technology, it's a wonderful time to really evaluate, the success of it, the ROI with it. And with brokerages, we're finding there's a lot of, technology vendors that are out there that are falling to the wayside, that are, having to downsize, that are really struggling, that are not able to step up and be a true partner to the brokerages and the agents that they serve. And we're starting to see that already. And so, when we look at finding opportunity, I'm like, okay, like this is that time to evaluate, all of those vendors, all of those partnerships, to dig into your finances, to see where we can consolidate, we can streamline, we can automate, processes. We have a lot of brokerages that had that admin assistant who was running their email campaigns and managing their social media. And a lot of those people have been furloughed or laid off, right?
Exactly.
And so, but we can keep that going though, because we have the magic of technology. We have marketing automation. And so we're going into a lot of brokers and saying, let's see, what are you doing? What workflows do you have set up for communicating and routing all of the leads? Buyers, sellers, renters, spheres of influence. How are you communicating and being transparent with your agents? What channels are you using to communicate across all of these different audiences? And how can we set up strategic and intelligent communication workflows for you that are much more automated, so that you, don't need that admin assistant at this time to go in and manage all of this. So we're doing a lot of that, and I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, we are. And we're about to publish this. I keep trying to get to it, like all of us. We have so many things happening. But we fielded a survey last week with agents and brokers across the country, asking them a whole bunch of things about COVID. And one of the things that I thought was very encouraging for both brokerages and for MLSs, actually, if there's any of them on the call today, was about, I want to say 60 or 70% of the people that we talked to said they're very interested in training. One of the things that I think all of us get frustrated by and have been frustrated by is if you're a brokerage or an MLS, you want more people to take advantage of your technologies. And if you're an agent, you want to take advantage of technologies, but you never seem to get the time to do it. And you never seem to understand which ones I should do first, second, and third. So brokers that have great technologies and have technology company partners, to your point, Bondilyn, that have trainers on deck, or that have webinars that are pre-recorded, or any kind of opportunity for people to understand all of the great tools that brokers offer, because as you're probably finding out, many people have contracts, right? So even if they want to cut back on that cost, they really can't right now, but that there's no reason to, because a lot of the tools that they've chosen are great. So if you're a broker, great time to promote that you've got training and great in showing people how to use the tools that you've created. If you're an agent, great time to call your broker and say, hey, let me see all that stuff that I know you've been asking me to take a look at, and I've just been too busy. So it's a good time to, this is if one good thing about a slowdown is it does give you time to do the things that you should do, but you never do, right? Other than drink wine at 3:00 in the afternoon, like we're all doing now.
Oh man, and it's true. We're seeing, people are hungry for knowledge. They're hungry for content. I mean, and people have a lot of questions about what's happening in the economy, what's happening with COVID. But, they also, I think it's imperative that brokers particularly be very, very transparent with their agents right now. You need to be very proactive. You need to be reaching out to them regularly, not just to provide education and insight, but also, to touch base and see how your agents are doing, how you can be of service to them and help serve them, and how you can help be a resource for them to communicate and be transparent to their consumer audiences. And this is a big time, there's a lot of recruitment activity that's going on right now. A lot of the big box franchise organizations are aggressively recruiting inside of smaller, agencies, independent agencies. And there's going to be a lot of shift because you've got big organizations, like inside of Realogy, Remax, that can come out and have these massive training programs and massive tool sets. And it can be very, very hard at a time to be competitive with that if the broker is not being open and transparent and not stepping up to the plate with training and education for their agents.
Yeah, absolutely. And just moral support, just having these kinds of conversations every day. How are you doing? How are you feeling? How are your kids? Is anybody sick? Thank God, neither. I had somebody sick in my house. I don't think it was COVID, but it was a pretty nasty flu. And I got to tell you, it was really scary because you feel, not only are you feeling terrible for them and taking care of them, and then you're worried about who's the next person that's going to get sick, right? I have an 88-year-old mom that lives with us, and I was really worried that she was going to get something. Thank God so far, knock on whatever, that she has not. But, and what the other thing we learned in the survey, which I was really excited to see, was that the number one activity that agents were doing right now was calling their clients, which is awesome. But what other types of ideas do you have for what should agents be thinking about right now? Let's assume they have a broker that's supporting them, but even beyond that, what should they be thinking about doing to ride this out and to position themselves well for the future?
This is a fabulous time to be reevaluating your databases. And so once again, Marilyn, we're always running, we're going places. Agents always have the best of intentions, right? Oh, I need to go through my phone. I need to go through that stack of business cards. I need to go through my inbox. I need to create these lists and groups. And this is a really good time to do that. And we're doing a lot of work inside of Elm Street and 365 with our clients to say, okay, let's look at your sphere of influence. Let's get that organized. Let's look at your coworkers, your family, your friends, your church groups, your community organizations. Let's put all these people in these different communication pockets. And then once again, going back to now, how can we best communicate and be of service to those people? What are you doing in terms of social media? How are you communicating with those different audience groups? How are you communicating with them via email, texting? And it's really true. We really want to be very proactive and step out and be of service. This is a great time for agents to reach out and reconnect with past clients that maybe they haven't had the time to reconnect with. Or lead opportunities that, maybe have just fallen to the wayside. Reach out, touch base, be of service. Don't necessarily come out and say, I'm here to sell you, right? With the idea of how can I be of service? How can I be a resource to you, your family, the community right now? And so I think that's imperative for agents to be doing right now, because honestly, what we're doing in terms of outreach, in terms of personal marketing, that's the business we're going to be seeing in 90, 120 days. And if you put on the brakes completely, and I understand people saying, okay, I might be cutting some of my ad spend in terms of new lead generation right now because of the financial concern or strain. But at the same standpoint, your existing database, your sphere of influence, there's so much money and opportunity in that. And I truly think that agents do not maximize that enough. And so that's something you can do that is absolutely of no cost right now, right? And it allows you to reconnect, have a lot of great conversations and sort of reprioritize, your communication with your sphere of opportunity.
I actually heard a couple of interesting points to what you're just describing. One is that, and this just stands to reason. And I think we probably suffer even a little bit more than we should, because in 2008, we meaning real estate was the epicenter of the economic downturn, right? So I think people automatically assume that somehow real estate's going to take a big hit through this process, which is a fair statement. But if you can provide them some, not only like you're saying, reaching out and just some regular human comfort. But if you could, do something where you pull a CMA for them, or you send them something on market trends, or remind them about this incredible opportunity with the mortgage interest rates that are coming down and how that's, generating interest. Anything that gives them, some tangible comfort that, wow, maybe this is going to be okay. Here's the other thing that I just heard. Interestingly, I heard this from two of the top 5 portals out there. I heard from Realtor.com and from Homes.com that traffic on those sites is up dramatically. Now,
30%,
some of it could be just
30%,
right? Yeah.
Marilyn. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I heard 40.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So again, while you may not be able to, do open houses right now, it's a great time to not only, get at listing exposure and potentially referral opportunities, but you now have the time to follow up instantly. That's the biggest thing consumers complain about, is that, they'll reach out to someone via one of those portals and no one calls them back. Well, there's no excuse now. You're sitting by your phone in your house, all by yourself. So you could actually demonstrate better customer service than you may have had the opportunity to in the past, because you just have, you have more time and you have more opportunity to stay focused on that stuff. So, it's counterintuitive, but it does make sense. I was talking to a big broker in Los Angeles, actually, Bondilyn. He told me he's leaning into his advertising and he's paying for it on behalf of his agents. Even though they're not selling as much, he's doing it because he knows that he's going to come out the other end in a better position. He's going to have a stronger lead funnel than anybody else because he's not pulled back. It's human, excuse me, it's human nature at this time. These times they go, oh my God, stop spending, stop doing this, tighten the reins, right? And there certainly are some things, and that's another thing you can do. You can go through your credit cards and say, what are the things I don't even know what they are, right? And get rid of them. But at the same time, if you have tools that have been working, keep going with them, because this is the time where you can get that unfair advantage that other people may not be able to do. If you, certainly if you can afford to do that.
Yeah, one thing that we've been doing a lot of with our brokerages is running gap analysis. So going into them and looking at all of the systems and processes, looking at KPIs for them, right? Their key performance indicators, and making sure that things are set up and working. And, it's interesting because, brokers on average, they invest in something like 12 to 15 different technologies, right, that they're paying for to provide solutions and services for their agents and for the consumer audience. And a lot of times there's a lot of overlap that is happening there. And so when we come in and do an analysis, we've literally been able to come in and help brokers save thousands of dollars a month just by, doing analysis and really helping them understand where overlap is, what can be eliminated, really capitalizing, like you said, on, what are the tools and resources that are really delivering high ROI for you, and how do we build on it? How do we maximize that and make sure? So many brokers are using 35, 55% of a technology. And a lot of times, when we open that gate up and just help really implement their technology, at full force, it allows us to, eliminate a lot of these additional or, ancillary expenditures for them. So, and this is that time. You're not out driving around everywhere. You're not running open houses. You're, so take that time now to run those gap analysis, to, self-evaluate all of your technology, look at your vendors, make sure you're aligning with your partners. If you have large scale vendors that you rely on who are gone a little MIA right now, that's nerve wracking, right? Because
it is
somebody else's business. You cannot be reliant on somebody else in that capacity. You have to have those partners that are stepping up and really working with you, organizationally, financially, the works.
You brought up a really important point, and this is a word that an ROI is kind of a corporate word. And frankly, I don't believe most realtors think like that. They think more about how can I just get the most for my money, and how do I, help my clients in whatever way that I can. If specific tips on that. So if I pull out my credit card statement and I find out that, like most agents, I've probably bought, I don't know, 7 to 10, maybe more different technologies or services that, that I thought at the time made sense. What's your advice about how do they do an ROI? What should they look at to evaluate each of those things to say, yeah, I think that one's worth it, or this one, or it's really not, and try to do it in business context? How do they do that?
Yeah, and it's tricky, right? Because when we're looking at marketing, there's a lot of what people perceive as sort of those gray areas, right? So like when I'm running, my partnerships, which obviously you guys are a partner of ours, right? I have to look at a couple of different things. I have to look at, the brand awareness aspect of what our relationship brings. How many people am I in front of, on a daily, on a weekly basis? How many people from your audience are actually engaging with me, and where are they engaging with me? Is it on your social channels? Is it through these webinars? Is it through the articles we publish with you? And so we look at that, but then there's also like with lead generation, there's a lot of really just hard data analysis, right? I'm spending X amount, I'm receiving X number of leads, and where things get gray there though is the perception of the quality of leads. And so I've had, and I'm sure you have too, I have had so many clients come to me and say, I'm spending money, on these big portals, and I'm doing this lead gen program, and, all these leads just suck. We're hardly converting, any of them. And I'm like, okay, well, wait a second. Let's take a look at what happens when that lead comes in. What is the first thing that occurs, and how do you touch them over 5 days, 2 weeks, the first 30 days? What is happening? And a lot of times what we're seeing is that it's not the quality of the lead, it's the quality of the follow-up. And so that's where I go back to that point, like this is that time to really analyze that. When I have a new lead that comes in, say I'm buying a lead from Zillow, and that lead comes in, what is that experience for that consumer? How accessible am I? How am I communicating with them? Where am I communicating with them? How many times am I touching them? And that's really, that's really important data to look at. And so that's when we go in and try to help people do a financial analysis to determine, right, ROI or return on investment. It's like, okay, where are you spending money, and what is that bringing you? What kinds of outcomes? And in every different communication channel, we have different KPIs that we measure. Like with brand awareness, I'm more interested in impressions and, general click-throughs. That's more like brand awareness, where then, I have marketing that I'm running that's we call it consideration focused, where people are actively being called into a call to action, where they're raising their hand, a consumer saying, I want to talk to an agent about this house. I want a market analysis in my community. Those are consideration actions that then, we can create an entire different series of KPIs around.
Exactly. And it's again, it's not something that, most people are necessarily used to doing, but here's one piece of simple math that I've done with some of our clients. So let's say buying leads online, right? And I know many people have cut back on that, but just for argument's sake. So let's say you spend, I'll make a quick math, right? I spent $1,000 a month, and I've gotten 5 leads out of that. And so if I take that $1,000 and divide it by 5, that's basically $200 per lead. Right. And then you can look, to your point about conversion, that's the hardest thing. So above those 5 leads, did any of those become deals? If they did, well, then you can look at that $1,000 against whatever your commission was. So say your commission was $10,000. I'm using simple math just for argument's sake, right? Your commission was $10,000. You spent $1,000. So you spent, 10% of your commission on advertising. Is that a number that you feel is good? Right. Those are the simple kinds of analysis I think that we can do. Some things, like you say, are more subjective. And again, what I would say is if you can afford to keep doing things, I would definitely not take your foot off the gas. The smartest agents and brokers right now are going the opposite way. They're trying to scrape as much as they can together to make it happen. And another thing I would suggest that if you haven't, I know a lot of your state associations are providing information on this. And if they aren't, email me at marilyn@retechnology.com. I'll try to help you. But this whole shelter in place and what an essential service means, every state is interpreting it a little bit differently. some people are being more liberal about it. Some people are like, in California, for example, if any of you are from here, you probably saw this, like not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, we were not deemed an essential service in real estate. And the California Association put out a note to all of their members saying, you should put every one of your listings on hold. Well, needless to say, agents went crazy. It's like, no, I can't put them on hold. But even in that context, I heard from many that said, I took them all the way to as far as I can to the altar to get them, even if I couldn't do a home inspection, I got them absolutely as far as I could. I got all the disclosure signed, things like that. So even if you feel like you're kind of stuck, take it absolutely as far as you can. I also wanted to point out for tomorrow, we have our coffee chat, and the topic is Survive and Thrive for the next 30, 60, and 90 days. It is with Jeff Lobb, who many of you may know, really, really smart marketing person. And so we're going to be continuing to do this. So, tune in regularly through your RE Technology newsletter. We'll be showing you and we'll be sending you emails on this too, to tell you what's coming next. We're going to have a variety we've got all kinds of really smart people on it. But I'd like to close it out, if I could, Bondilyn, if you could just, what's one takeaway, something that people on the call can do today, they can begin today, that you would suggest that they do to try to have business success as we're in the midst of this crisis?
Yeah, whether you're a broker or an agent or even an MLS, right, a business, or it doesn't matter. This is that time to reevaluate, all of your finances, all of your partners, your vendors, your databases. This is that time for you to sit down and pay attention. And a lot of people don't like to sit down and do these types of evaluations, and they kind of push those goal setting exercises and things off, kind of on an annual basis. But whatever goals that you created at the beginning of this year really need to be reevaluated right now. And if you need assistance with that, then you need to reach out to an organization like Maryland's or, myself. And another thing too that I really want to point out to brokers or organizations, that I do a lot of M&A work, right? Mergers and acquisitions. And I consult inside of a lot of large franchise organizations to help them, with their franchise growth, their footprint, as well as independent brokerages that may be looking to run M&A and activity in their geolocation. And it's kind of interesting because M&A deal volume hit a 7-year low coming out of the end of Q1, 7-year low.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, I'm really expecting that we're going to see a lot of M&A activity coming onto the books, particularly Q3, Q4, and heading into 2021. So this is really a time for brokers who are doubling down, who are looking for those growth opportunities, who have been in conversations with, organizations and colleagues in your area, looking for mergers, looking for acquisitions. This is the time right now to start digging into those finances, looking at, what you can do and what that picture can look like for you. And so I highly recommend anybody that is out there that is interested or has been, pursuing any M&A activity, reach out to me, reach out to Marilyn. Both of us specialize in this type of activity. This is the time right now to be positioning yourself for those growth opportunities as we head towards, the end of 2020.
I'm going to leave you with one thought that I just read this morning on Twitter. Some of you may know Steve Harney. He's a very, very, very good coach, very smart guy, very quantitative in the way he looks at the world. And we've all now, or we're seeing, the unemployment applications are at 6.6 million or some crazy number. And the press is going to make that sound like the world is ending and that we're never going to come out of this. They like to do that because it gets us to tune in. First of all, turn the television off if you can. But remember that we too have been through this. And here's the thing that I love the most about realtors. In the survey that we just did, the biggest statement that came back was we asked people, how are they feeling? And the words that came back were cautiously optimistic. You know why? Because we're tough buggers. Real estate, you can't kill us. You can hurt us. You can push us down, but we're not going anywhere. So if you get to that moment where you start to feel that panic setting in, remember people like Steve that are super smart that said, this too shall pass. We're bottling up demand that is going to burst. Who knows when? Whether it's like Bondilyn said, first part of Q1 of 2021 or the end of this year. Houston, for example, when they had their huge flood and that awful hurricane, and half the city got flooded, and no one knew what to do about it. After all of that craziness, they ended their year up 2%. So I'm not saying anybody knows what's going to happen this time, but just hang on, hold on to your family. Stay calm and just get down to business, because it's all going to be okay. So with that, we're gonna tune out for today. Thank you so much, Bondilyn, for coming. I really appreciate you coming. And again, in the chat box, if everybody wants to see, there's a link for tomorrow's coffee chat. Click on that if you want to register. We're going to keep these going every day, and the recordings will be sent to you as well. So if you can't sit through them right now, you can do it later at night after your kids go to bed. Feel free to grab those, and we'll send those to you too. So great day, everybody. Thank you so much, and enjoy your coffee.
Bye.